Hello folks, I'm Mark Thompson and I'm going to be talking to you about the question about keeping up with Microsoft 365 and Teams, and is it a day problem or is it a really good opportunity to engage your audience? So if you see content that would be helpful to you as an individual, as an IT pro, you can contact me through Super Simple 365. If you do a search for that, you'll find it. But also, if your company could do help with anything we're talking about, then the Inform team can help you with that. Okay, folks. So, talking about the challenge. Now, we've all heard, even as IT pros, we struggle with keeping up with Microsoft Teams, and thinking about the end users as well. So, let's just have a look at this. So, I had a quick look before we did this, looking at how many Teams updates there's been over the last 12 weeks or so. So, in the admin center, there's nearly 60. Okay. And if you look on the 365 roadmap, there's nearly 300 new updates and new features and updates from the last 12 weeks alone. Now, if you also have to look after the rest of 365, then the admin center's got 150 updates and best part of 900 updates from inside the roadmap. Okay, so if we have this find this as a challenge, then how can we expect the end users to manage with that amount of change? Now, we've heard people complain about it, and I'm going to talk to you about how you can turn it around so it isn't a problem and how it's a really good opportunity to engage with those people. Okay, so we're going to turn that change fatigue into the fuel for a supercharged user community. The benefit of that is that they will share their knowledge and they'll persuade doubters and promote tech confidence, increase productivity, and a sense of community amongst those people. Now, when you try to keep up with 365, there's lots of ways that you can get updates. And on the left here, we're going to look at the admin center. We've got the 365 roadmap, observations that you make, and people from your community. And I'm going to step you through how you can use that to produce assets to engage your audience. Okay, so some of the things I'll do quite high level, and some other things I'm going to show you in quite a bit of detail, so you could go away and do this if you wanted to. So we want to take this stuff from our sources and have it in a scratch pad, and it's where we've got our main stuff. That's where the chunk of work happens, and then we're going to talk about how all the stuff on the right-hand side comes from this one piece of work in the middle. So we're going to talk about intranet posts, creating a Teams community, creating a course. I use course in quotes because it's more of a presentation, but you can plug it into your LMS if you want to. How you can use the recordings, how you can then get out into your organization, and then how your comms teams can use that as well. Okay, so we've got our scratch pad, so just where we start. Now, the folks at Inform, they asked me, would they like to help me with the graphics? And I deliberately showed you the actual thing I work on. The Inform team, their graphics are some of the nicest I've ever seen. Okay, I want to show you just the rough working that we do this on. So we've got like our template section with the different sections. We have somewhere to put our revised timelines. Okay, the things that have slipped. I'll tell you why it's still worth revisiting those. What's new and available now? So people have heard for weeks about this new content. That it's easy to forget about it once it goes live. Bite-sized updates, ones to watch, and I'll tell you why it's important to tell people what's coming much further down the line. And we've got our full updates. You can see on the left-hand side here, this does get, I've just highlighted, I know it's small, folks, but when you're managing where all this content goes, it's really easy to lose track of it. Okay, it's also easy to lose track of where you last looked at the roadmap and where you last looked at the admin center, because as you dip into it at different times, it's really easy to lose track of that. Okay, so we're going to populate our scratch pad. I'm going to show you the full updates, the revised timelines, bite-sized, and the ones to watch. The first source is the admin center. So the stuff in there is nice and timely. It's sectioned out into what's you get an overview. It tells you the date. So it's laid out fairly nicely. It has supporting images that you can use and supporting links. So that's great. And when something's delayed, you get a little updated tag, and it tells you that when something's running late. The problem with it is, do you actually have access? Some of the terminology is a bit technical. They talk about your organization and your users. It doesn't actually talk to the users. And the language is a bit awkward. There's some of the updates I've seen over the last few weeks, especially with being able to set up breakout rooms in advance, about having room managers and breakout rooms. The language, really, you couldn't just put that in front of a user. So some pluses and minuses about using the admin center. Now, we are going to use it, and let's just step through this process. So go to the admin center, we get the content, and then we bring it in to, then we bring it into our Scratchpad. But it's a bit rough when you put it in. You couldn't put that in front of a user. Now, when we've started to lay this out, now this is fairly new up here, so you'll see where this fits in soon, but we've got this new paragraph at the top. What we found is that we told users what's coming new and what's coming down the line, and they found it really interesting, but unless they were familiar with the feature, they would say, well, what problem is it solving? What benefit does it give me? And so what? So we start off with this statement. So, are you always looking for new ways to engage colleagues during Teams meetings? Whether you organize a monthly Teams meeting, make presentations, or use Teams for delivering training, word clouds in forms, polls are a great tool at your disposal. So instantly it tells people what the benefit is, what it's going to bring them, is it worth them reading on? We then do a short version, so it's just like a paragraph and a date. So for the people who just want to just check in, see the update and move on, that works well for them. And then for those people who are super interested, they can look at the details as well. Okay, and we also have like a little section with the availability and the supporting links. So we have to basically rewrite it and reword it before we put it in front of people. Now, we humanize the language, so we're talking about them. So you'll be able to do this, you and your colleagues. So we're not talking about your organization. Now, you can also use Planner with the Admin Center for this. Now, we use it in a couple of different ways. At Inform, we use the buckets, and when you can tell the Admin Center to update Planner with the new updates, and it gets moved into certain buckets, and we handle it that way. At one of our very large clients, I get added to a task, and I know that I'm then to socialize that. With big organizations, the people doing the communications, people doing the training, they're often in different teams. So they just do that, and it's a nice, easy, really simple way of communicating that you want something socialized. Okay, the revised timelines. So we just pull that out of the admin center as well. We just have what the app is called. So you might say Teams, the title, and the new date. And depending on where we're showing it, we also might have a paragraph and a supporting image. This is stuff you've already told people, but it's a great opportunity to remind them about what's coming. And if someone's missed a session, it gives them a quick recap as well. So we always have the revised timelines because it just shows people what's coming. Bite-sized, it might be that you don't need a whole page for this. It's just a couple of lines will do, a title, the same content and a paragraph, and that is all really you'll need to give people that nugget of information. Okay, we also like to go a little bit further out, and we use the ones to watch to head off frustrations. When people are struggling with certain challenges or certain limitations in their software, this is a great way for people to know what's coming, just to head that off. So we go over to the roadmap, and we download it. We then filter it. So depending on what you're doing it, so you filter it by date. So when did you last look at this? And you can then filter it by teams, for example. And then you pull that out and you use it. Again, you have the title, the app, and the details. Okay, so you've done the main chunk of the work now. Okay, that's a dull bit. You've done your work. Now let's use that. Okay, I want you to focus on how many things we can do with that one piece of work that we've got. So, creating a learning hub in Microsoft Teams. So we have this at Inform. We have it at the big government client that I work on, and we have it in previous clients as well. So we have a nice open team, anyone can join, and we have a channel for each app. You have to think about how you're going to communicate this, especially if your audience aren't super engaged with Teams yet. How are you going to get people into this community in the first place? Now, for the full updates, because you've done the work, you can copy and paste it and drop it in, and it just works. So you might have to do a little bit of tweaking, but the copy and paste works pretty well. Now, the thing I do is, with the people I know are most interested in that update, I mention people and I draw people in. So if you know certain trainers that train on that product, or someone who you've heard, who I know the SharePoint a publishing person, you can pull people in, and that works really well. Now, the benefits of this that we found is that people do want to learn. At the Department for Education, we rolled this out, and this is before COVID hit. So about 18 months ago, I finished there. 1 in 8 employees found this, and they chose to take part in this community. And that's before that's before we had to work from home. So it works really, really well. And as one of the benefits is, what you'll find is that you post these updates in there, people start posting questions. Initially, you've got to help out with the questions, but then other people start chipping in. It's a bit like lighting a fire. Once you've done the initial work, it just carries on. That works really well. Super simple, but works really well. Okay, so this is a page from one of the client sites. We have this on SharePoint. We just have a learning hub. So we have a page that pulls in these pages, and behind the back scenes, we have metadata that shows it's live, it's coming soon, it's ones to watch, so it moves its way up the page. But again, on here, we can just copy and paste this in. Look at these headings. This is the title we sorted out earlier. That one statement, the in short. We go down, we've got the in more detail. Then we've got down here, we've got the date. We've got a section there for I've got a question, which then jumps them over to the team, so they can ask questions inside that team that we've just showed you. Okay, so like I say, it pulls it through to a hub page, and it shows people in a certain order. Now, each of the apps in this organization anyway has its own page as well. So you scroll to the bottom of that page for Teams or for SharePoint, and those pages also pull in all these updates in that sort of date order. Okay, so you've got more content that way as well. Now, if you wanted to, then you could have that on a similar thing on your external facing website and use it as a way to get traffic to your site. And if you want to, then you can promote other content on there as well. So if you could have it on your external facing one. Also, it gives you a good opportunity, if you do want to put it externally, for social media, to pull people in. Now, you can see this image here. So I'm going to talk to you about a slide deck in a minute. The slide deck, you also use the slides to reuse that content as the header image, for example, for Twitter, and we use the short version that I already showed you, take a few words out because of limitations, and pop the date in. So we've got the title, the quick headline, and some links as well, and use that to pull people back into your website. So you're looking after your end users as well as potential customers. We've reused the slide. And what else could you do with this, especially if you wanted to push this externally? That same content can get dropped into a weekly roundup or into a newsletter as well, and offer real value not just to your internal people, but to your clients as well. Okay, so we've got our team all set up. We've got the content in there. That community is starting to build up. We have our SharePoint hub, our learning hub, that's getting momentum. Now let's pop this same content into PowerPoint. So the same content you saw from the Scratchpad, because you did all the work already, just copy and paste it into here. And you can see that here's an example. Let's just go back one. Here's the full update. So we've got the title, we've got the main details and the date. Now, revised timelines as well. So I like to just show 2 or 3 on this type of slide and have images to engage. Now, depending on what you're doing, I'll explain this in a minute. Sometimes we don't show an image, depending on who we're talking to. But we show the bite-sized images and the ones to watch as well. Now, I personally would normally show images. There's a reason why these two don't, but normally I'd put an image in there just to hook people in as well. Now, the variations that I personally, so for my YouTube channel and my blog, I just do across Microsoft 365, and I'll show that as I've shown you. For our major government client, I do a similar thing as well. So it's monthly rather than weekly we do there. So we go across all 365. We also have a section called In Case You Missed It. So any really big things that came a couple of months ago, and we just revisit that stuff. And we have new and available now is another section. That tends to be a demo actually. It's just it's easy. People just get bombarded and you forget about what was coming, and we show people how you can use what's happened. Now, Inform, One of the sessions I do is across the month, I pluck out all the team stuff, and we focus on teams, and we just give people the headlines for the other stuff, and we point them back over to the team if they want more detail. So there's lots of different things you can do with that same original piece of work. Now, this PowerPoint presentation, you can then create, you can then turn this into a monthly course, and the course is the bit where we have the new and available. Now, I think this point is really important, and it's easy to overlook. You guys, you roll out 365, you roll out Teams, you spend all the money on adoption, you get people up to speed, and then you stop. Okay, and it changes constantly, and then the features go ahead, and people's knowledge stays the same. Unless they're using that part, they won't even know about it. Okay, so I personally think it should be just part of like your business as usual to keep people up to date. Now this course here, now although it's a presentation, we handle it as a course at this major client. We plug it into their learning management system, and it just gets treated as a monthly course. It legitimizes that learning time, it ring fences it, and people will turn up. It's easy to publicize it because I assume for courses you've already got something in place anyway, and it's easy to sign up, so you can just plug straight into that. Now, the attendees, something that came out of it is they start talking to each other. When you take a break, you ask them what they think of the features, they then start swapping details. The organization is so big that they don't know what each other are doing. So it becomes like a hub and a community, and people make those connections, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, from our point of view, why would we do this? We can position the new features in a way that works for us, our colleagues in the organization, so they're not just going off to the Microsoft site and reading and then working out what it means to them. You can tell them what it means to them. If IT have got other messages, so every month before I do a new session, I send off the agenda, and the 365 team say, oh, can you mention this? Can you tell people about that? Don't mention that yet. So it's a great way to weave in those messages. As part of the follow-up, you always ask for feedback, but we promote the team that we've already created. We promote the web pages that we've already created, and the new dates. We deliver it predictably on Teams, and we record it as well, and we use that. Now, our experience with that is that the course, people come back month after month after month to learn. Every single month we've run this course for this major government client, we have more and more people coming every single month, and it is now one of the most popular courses that's available there. They keep coming back every time. So it shows that people want it. So we just watch the graph go up constantly with the attendees. Just get back on that actually. And one of the things that I do with that is that as part of the follow-up, we capture the email addresses, and we drop everyone a note when the new dates are out, and just before it say, hey folks, just let you know that the next session is coming up, and just to build up that engagement as well. Okay, you got the video as well. You've done the work, because you might as well record it. So you can either share it internally or externally, depending on how you want to position this. You can use stream. I would expect you to stream, but you could also use a private YouTube channel. But you can then use that in your follow-up training. So people who missed the session, you can have it as part of your follow-up email for people who missed it. Maybe your web pages or your communications internally to push people to that content. So the people who couldn't attend the course, they get up to date as well. Now, the other thing that we found is our team get quite a bit of recognition for this output that we've done. And what we find is that we keep getting invited to different parts of the business to talk at their monthly meetings or their quarterly meetings, or when they have mini conferences. So we keep getting invited to that to talk about different updates. So it gives us a new audience. We can tailor things to them, and we can then push them towards the intranet, the team that we've got, and the course. And these things all tend to feed each other around. So it also gives the existing comms channels some content as well. So the reality is that some people still like email. Okay, so find out who in your organization's got regular newsletters and see if you can get a slot in there. So we have a regular slot in a handful of the newsletters that go out, and we have a micro update and push people to those assets. Now, the results of this little package, so the main things I'm talking about is the Learning Hub and SharePoint. I'm talking about the team, and I'm talking about the courses. Okay, so we have regular content on, so regular visitors to the internet posts. That community on team is catching fire, like I described earlier. We've put in the work, and then people answer each other's questions, and it really takes off. It's one of the most popular courses that we have, and we get those regular requests to to join meetings, and we give the comms teams plenty of content. Now, for the end users, when they're told about something that's late as a good recap, they then realise they haven't missed it. The new content that's available now, it just gets people exploiting that thing that happened last week. Okay, when I talk to people about being able to set up your meeting room, so your breakout rooms in Teams in advance, which you couldn't do before, when I tell them about being able to assign room managers, which you couldn't do before, a lot of people are saying, I will start using breakout rooms now because of those two features that are coming. You get these super engaged users that persuade others, and also because they're all over the place, it's like you've got your team spread all over your organization and spreading the message about 365 and Teams. Okay, and everyone else just becomes a bit more tech confidence. Okay, so automation, that looks like a lot of work, doesn't it? Okay, so you get a lot of, it is a lot of work, but you get a lot of results from that one thing that you do initially. So automation, so I've got a couple of minutes just to cover off on this, but I'd like to see what you guys think about this. I'm interested, if you don't mind sharing, how you handle keeping your folk up to date. And what about automation? Would you automate this? Do you think there's an opportunity for automation, or do you think it should be a personal thing? Has anyone got anything they'd like to share about how they do it in their organization, how you keep your staff up to date?
Yeah, so we use Yammer.
Yeah.
We also have a blog where I surface the major updates.
Yeah.
Features like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Yammer. We have a blog. I also run an Ask Me Anything session every 2 weeks. Open invite, anyone in the university can join. And it's absolutely fantastic because I don't know what's coming through the door in terms of questions. Keeps me on my toes, but actually it's really, really good because you get loads of people engaging. And then we have a champions community, and we just encourage people to come and join that as well.
Excellent. So, would you automate any of that?
I haven't yet, no. I'd like to.
Folks, I love the Yammer thing. Yammer gets it. I listen to a lot of podcasts to keep up with tech, and Yammer gets a meeting. But also it's Zurich Assurance. They've got a global, international, multi-language community. And you can plug into there. I always think of Yammer. If you don't like it, you didn't need it in the first place, or you just haven't put it, you're not doing it properly. I love Yammer, it's great to use it. Anyone else doing it in their organisations? So, I've got some thoughts on the automation thing. I don't think the first stage should be automated because the source of the information, the language is too clunky. You are not going to engage with users using their language. However, one of the things that we'll look at, and maybe I'll talk about this next time, is once you've got that, when you can pop that information, all the different sections I was telling you about, maybe pop that into a list, yeah? And then use Power's way, have a flow to generate a page and drop all those things in. I might want to check those pages before they go live on one list, but I think there's an opportunity there. But that first stage post, I don't think you could automate that. Okay. So, I want to give you a recap. Now this, I can't warn you, it looks horrible. I'm going to make just a read. But I just want to show you, just want to give you a visual representation of what you can do with that first piece of work that you had. And the folks that Inform, no, that would horrify the rest of this. I did this on my own, because it's not, it's meant to be a little bit more. Okay, so we've got our first piece of, we've got our scratch pad, and we can push that content into Teams. We can then push exactly the same content over into SharePoint and those pages, because people, you can't tell people just to go to Teams. People go to their different locations. Some people like the internet, some people like Teams, some people still like email. Okay, some people just want to welcome to a course and be told. Okay, that's why you can do this in different places. Now you can use that with your comms or Twitter, depending on internal and external. You can pull people in there. Then we put this same content into a PowerPoint deck. Now, those PowerPoint slides, save those as a JPEG, which is really good, like placeholders of thumbnails with little content over there on the left-hand side. You can then push that into a monthly course, which of course you can record. You're doing it anyway, you might as well record it and make good use of it. You'll then get invited to meetings to present the same content as well. And now, when you are when we put emails, we push people to courses. And when we do these meetings here, you can push people to those courses as well, to the web pages. And all of this stuff, they start feeding each other. And once you have all this set up, it sounds like a lot of work initially. Once it's set up, you go through the same routine. Every time there's a set of updates, maybe once a week, once a couple of weeks. And maybe the way you describe the system that you've got, once it's set up those, all of these things feed each other and they all uplift. And it works beautifully. Okay, folks, so let's just go back on that. We're coming towards the end of our time together. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the way we do it, the way it works for us, the benefits that we have? Does anyone got anything to add? I know that I mentioned it earlier, but if anyone is already doing it in a different way, great to hear. Anyone have questions or comments about what's going on?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I think there's incredible amount of potential moving content around organisations in a way that most just don't do. But I was just wondering if you could sort of say a little bit more about what you're doing, say, with the LMS or potential within that.
Okay, so just quickly calculating how much what we say to you about this part. So the inform team have created an LMS system that they are using. It's a non-static inform team, but they put it into a file, and they've got this all the courses on there. It's searchable, it works. It's still in Power Apps, it works beautifully. And so it manages to use this, it emails them, they get certificates if they're trying to use it, they want certificates. It's in its second iteration now, but we've put this in there. Now, I know, strictly speaking, it isn't a course, it's a presentation, but putting it in there just puts so many benefits. Yes, so the LMS bit, I didn't see I'm talking about myself a little bit, so I was involved in the development of it, my assistants in there.
Are you automating to hand things in there, because that's another exercise, right?
Okay, so at the moment, somebody does populate it. And I'm not honest, I don't know all the ins and outs of how they do it. I just know that it's easy for people to find. It's beautifully easy to navigate around. It tells you what's in the course, what being presented. Oh, the other thing, folks, as well, is that monthly session that we do one way, 45 minutes. Okay, and people describe it as a 5-hours learning session. So we then we call it relaxed pace. We don't want to say, we don't want to put its name to reject anything about people who want that slow pace. We just call it relaxed pace. So that's an hour and a half of the same content. I love doing that session because you just take the time with it. People ask so many more questions. Okay, people ask, you end up doing much more the demonstrations in that session, and people talk to each other, and people will come up with you and they'll tell you about how they're using it. So if you do decide to do something like this, don't assume you know how other people act really. We thought we knew. We thought that not our ways of right people. They've got a bit of pushback. We go all the time thinking that's crazy, but an hour and a half. You can ask them to an hour and a half session to learn about things like the updates, but they're flooding. You didn't work. That's something else there. Yeah, so it's a message. I just know it works beautifully, and there are so many courses on that. I know that they could just repeat what the last session, and everyone will just talk about that. Interesting opportunity we might be to automate when we get to a certain amount of seats, maybe automating the automation of it, adding of extra seats in there. Thank you. Folks, any other questions, comments, observations, anything you'd share about the way you do it? Okay, so, after the session, please feedback. Hopefully next year, we'll talk about how we automated this and the lessons that we learned, and I'll share quite openly. If you've learned something, or whether it's library or not, I'll tell you all about it. So please share that feedback. That's how you get in touch with us. And we'll say goodbye to the people online.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for your time, folks. And I think it is time.